Move that the question be now put.
Brendan Horan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise on behalf of New Zealand First to utterly oppose this bill. So if we look at the definition of stupidity, or one of them, it's doing the same thing over and over again and somehow expecting a different result. As I was saying, a perfect example of the definition of stupidity, right over there. Yes, and sir, you'll notice that the speeches coming from that side of the House have been utterly unconvincing and entirely dull, because they realise that they're flogging a dead horse. That this didn't work in the 80s, it didn't work in the 90s, and with the benefit of hindsight, sir, it's criminal. So this piece of legislation removes the social responsibility clause which currently governs SOEs. And this means that mixed ownership companies will be driven entirely by the pursuit of greater profit margins. There will be a lack of public scrutiny because this piece of legislation removes the provisions for members of the public to access information that they have previously had access to, such as the Official Information Act and the Ombudsman's Act. A person in a legal sense, sir, can also mean any trust or company. And there is every possibility that an individual person can indirectly own far more than 10% of any mixed ownership company, as all they need to do is to set up a few trusts. Sir, this government has spoken about having a mandate by the people of New Zealand, and we constantly hear them in the House saying that 1 million people voted for them. Well, what about the 3 million that didn't? Now, I understand that on that side of the House they have a little bit of difficulty with mathematics, simple mathematics, but they should understand that 3 million is greater than 1 million. And, sir, I would ask you, where is the fiscal responsibility? Because we hear them speaking about fiscal responsibility. And it's quite interesting perception, isn't it? Because here we had a national government that 4 years ago got in and they tell us, well, Mr. Ryle told us tonight there was an $8 billion deficit, and somehow these financial geniuses have turned it into a $64 billion deficit. How about that? How does that work? Can you get that maths right there? And approximately 17 billion in the past year. So I ask, sir, if they get 6 billion for these assets, which is a figure they've been touting, what are they going to do with it? And how is it going to suddenly solve the economic problems that we have? I mean, you know, there's only so much you can blame on the Labor Party and on the economic mess that's happening all over the world today in Greece. You can try blaming Finland again, but that didn't work for you. But, sir, when we take a look at these companies, and if we consider, say, Genesis, and I say, well, who's the chairman of Genesis? And I Googled it. Well, I didn't really need to Google it, but for the benefit of some members I did. And there we see a lady. I saw her a few weeks ago, actually, over at the Bolton when John Banks was in trouble, and I wondered, is that who I think it is? It looks like a cross between a cougar and a dinosaur, and I thought, there's a Cougasaurus. But no, it wasn't. And so then I found out that this person is also the chairman of Financial Service Council of New Zealand. And I thought, well, we've heard from that person today. And then when I scrolled down, independent, non-executive director of the China Construction Bank. And I'm thinking, is there possibly a conflict of interest here? Is there a conflict of interest? And I say, sir, is this the same person that's getting $1,200 a day for the rebuild of Christchurch? Because I would have thought that alone would have been a 40-hour-a-week job. But no, there seems to be no limits to which this government will stoop to look after their mates.
Phil Twyford.